listeners, Movie Miss here, and the episode you are about to listen to is one of two episodes that cover the same film. I thought I would give you a warning because this is a format that you are not used to hearing on the show. This was a trial run back in season 1 when my co-host was Nikki Flixx. We weren't really wanting to heavily debate movies where one of us liked a film and one of us hated the film. We didn't feel like that would be a whole lot of fun, so we were giving this solo episode a trial run. We covered 4 films in this fashion, and I will be releasing them into the main feed. What happened was I would pick a film that I pretty much hated. I recorded an episode, a full episode, doing a plot walkthrough and scene dissection, talking about in depth my thoughts and feelings on everything happening. And then Nikki would take the opposing opinion and opposing views and do the same thing on her full-length episode. She would do a full plot walkthrough, scene dissection, discussing positive themes and notes and kind of defending the film in a way. So we just thought that would be an easier format for discussing movies that I really didn't care for. I will be dropping both opposing episodes at the same time, so you can choose which one you want to listen to, or if you want the back and forth, listen to both and see maybe one of us will sway you to the dark side. With me, I have cookies, come to the dark side. With all of that said, here is the episode. Enjoy.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal: providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
It used to be that calling a film a turkey was an insult. Nowadays, there's actually an audience for some of the worst movies ever made.
Baby, you are gonna go broke showing turkeys like these.
Now we're talking turkey.
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker.
It's turkey time. Gobble, gobble.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Let's Talk Turkeys. This is Nikki Flixx, and I will be flying solo today, giving you my take on the film Hereditary. If I were to make a list of my favorite horror films from the past 10 years, Hereditary would be near the top of that list. I love this movie a lot. It was released in 2018, had a $10 million budget, and grossed about $80 million at the box office worldwide. Written and directed by Ari Aster. It has a running time of 2 hours, 8 minutes, so I'm going to do things just a little differently with this episode. For the sake of brevity, I won't be walking through the movie scene by scene. I will instead reference a scene or moment, and I'll give you the time I'm at in the running time of the movie, so that you can follow along if you'd like. Major spoilers ahead, of course, so please be aware of that. Our format does work best if this is a movie that you've already seen, particularly if the movie has a plot twist or some bombshells like this one does. The movie has a Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 89%. It received a lot of critical praise, and it was nominated for many awards when it was released. I do feel this movie was certainly Oscar-worthy, but the Academy is, of course, notorious for snubbing films that dive too far into the depths of the horror genre like this one does. As I mentioned, Ari Aster, the writer-director, this is his first full-length feature film. And he really delivers for me as far as my level of excitement about what this filmmaker will do next. Right up there with how excited I was when I saw the original Saw film about James Wan and Lee Whannell, what they would go on to do. Same level of excitement that I have for this writer and director. So many enjoyable choices story-wise here for me, writing a fine line between, is this about mental illness or is it about satanic witchcraft? The peppering in of hints and bits of information, but only letting us as the audience learn the truth at the same pace our main characters do. I also really appreciate the idea of using miniatures and the miniature Graham house to set up the parallels where we're going to feel as if the Graham family are being posed and positioned, that they're being set up by outside forces and that they have no control over their eventual fates. With that aspect of this story, the director pulls off some really cool things visually with the transitions between the miniature Graham house and the real one. And props to the set decorators for creating furniture in the house that helps with those seamless transitions. So many outstanding ideas that Ari Aster had when writing and visualizing this movie. It's all just very impressive to me. Really great casting here too. We have Toni Collette as Annie Graham, Alex Wolff as her son Peter, Millie Shapiro as her daughter Charlie, Gabriel Byrne as her husband Steve, and Ann Dowd as her friend Joan. The film opens with Ellen Lee's obituary. Grandma Ellen, or Queen Lee, as we will later come to know her, is the mother of Annie. With this shot of the obituary, you start to hear part of what is truly an amazing original score written by Colin Stetson. As that obituary fades and the score builds, we cut to a shot of the treehouse and the score just drops. It's silent for a moment there. And the idea of having that score drop out, giving us a moment of silence to take in what we're seeing visually, is very effective, in my opinion, and it's used several times throughout the movie. The score picks back up as we pan around Annie's workshop and move into the miniature Graham house. I love the sound of the cellos here, very uncomfortably low tones in the score as we slowly move into Peter's room in the miniature. It feels as if the music builds and moves in time with the camera's movements, and that idea is really great. At about 3 minutes in, we meet Millie Shapiro as Charlie. What a talented young actress this is. 14 years old at the time of filming Hereditary. Such a complex character for such a young performer to pull off, particularly with the limited screen time and lack of dialogue that Charlie has. She plays the character so well. Upon first viewing, I was feeling so uncomfortable about Charlie as a character. Her behaviors seem so odd. Her mannerisms are strange. She has weird habits and hobbies. Her responses to questions just seem weird. You get the feeling there's something very off with her as a person. Something's not right inside her head. But on that first viewing, not once did I suspect what was really wrong with Charlie. So kudos to Millie Shapiro for pulling that off, because the mystery of what's really going on here hangs on not understanding what's happening in Charlie's head and not understanding what's happening in Annie's head. The surprises of the story wouldn't work if either of these two actresses didn't keep us wondering and guessing. We have Steve entering the treehouse, finding his daughter has slept here, expressing concern over how cold she must have been, that she could have caught pneumonia. And Charlie's response to that is, "That's okay." This is the perfect example of what I meant about Charlie's weird responses to things. The look on her face as she says, "It's okay if I get pneumonia," it's one of subtle confusion and a hint of fear. Wow, what I get from this is part of Charlie has some sort of death wish or seems unconcerned about taking care of her body physically. But also there's part of Charlie that is kind of afraid of that and doesn't know why she feels that way. It's very impressive, Millie Shapiro pulling off the subtlety in the character. And of course, upon a rewatch, in hindsight, we know that Charlie is actually Paimon, doesn't particularly care about this body at all because it is meant to be a temporary home. And throughout Charlie's screen time, it really comes across that Paimon and Charlie, the 13-year-old girl, aren't quite certain who they are and what's going on. So around 5 minutes in, we're at Grandma Ellen's funeral, and Charlie is looking at Grandma, noticing the necklace that she's going to be buried with. The symbol on that necklace is, in fact, the sigil of Paimon. Paimon is very much a, quote, real thing. He's considered a king of hell, a demon, among circles who do believe in these types of things. And that sigil, that symbol, is historically accurate to that extent. I appreciate the level of research and authenticity that Ari Aster did with keeping true to the lore of Paimon. That sigil will appear numerous times throughout the film, but this is our first glimpse at it. And as Charlie looks up, we see a blonde-haired man standing at the foot of the coffin, watching Charlie and smiling just a little too big for the moment. It's a funeral, buddy. Read the room. But as we will find out much later, this guy is one of the members of Queen Lee's cult. So he's not super upset that she has died. He's just really stoked because, hey guys, Paimon's here. I usually only get to see Paimon from across the yard as I hide out in the bushes. This guy knows what's going to start happening now that Queen Lee's soul has left her body. And he's pretty pumped about it. And we'll see more of the random cult members keeping a distant but watchful eye on Charlie throughout the film. So as Annie is delivering her eulogy, we see Charlie drawing in her sketchbook. She's drawing her mother, making her look pretty hideous. And we'll find out from a friend of Peter's that Charlie likes to draw portraits of people that are much less than flattering. We know that's because Charlie is actually Paimon, so, he's going to draw him like he sees him. Of course, to a powerful king of hell, these silly little humans and mortals, they look like a bunch of trolls, don't they? Next, we see Charlie snacking on what looks like a Hershey bar, watching as yet another of Grandma Ellen's friends is rubbing some sort of oil on Ellen's lips. So let me tell you a few things here. I raised a child who has a severe nut allergy, which can result in anaphylactic shock or death. And I would love to point out a few things here for people who haven't dealt with that. 1. Hershey bars, chocolate bars in general, M&Ms, homemade baked goods. These are some of the top things you learn to be very cautious about when you're dealing with a nut allergy. You're better off just avoiding these things altogether. It's much safer. 2, if we are allowing this 13-year-old to choose and supply her own snacks, the kid ought to know better than to tempt fate with her snack choices. 3, if you as parents aren't sure that you can trust your kid's snack choices, you better be carrying around an EpiPen, and you better also be teaching Charlie to bring the EpiPen with her wherever she goes. Clearly, the parents are concerned about her snack choices because they're both checking in, hey, does that have nuts in it? So all of this confirms in my mind that yes, Paimon has a desire to hurry things along and get the hell out of Charlie's body into a more suitable host. So he is seeing the nut allergy as perhaps a simple way out. Annie and Steve, of course, are falling down on the job as parents here. There's a lot to go into with the problematic things that we see in Annie and Steve's relationship and in their lack of parenting skills. All of it is just part of the deeper issues that they have as people stuck in this situation. And it's perhaps very telling about their inability to control the fate of their family. At 10 minutes in, during this interesting conversation that Annie is attempting to have with Charlie, more subtle, interesting things happening on Charlie's face throughout as she reacts to what Annie is saying. Very tough stuff for a 14-year-old girl to be pulling off here. What might be going through Charlie's head when she is actually a demon, but isn't aware of that, is dealing with the death of her overbearing grandmother / conjurer / queen, Charlie feels a super strong attachment to Grandma, but maybe doesn't understand why she feels that. We're getting so much of that from her facial expressions and reactions to what Annie's saying here. Annie sees the word Satoni scribbled across the wall there. Through a little bit of Googling, I do see that this is a word commonly used in the ritual of necromancy. For those of you who may not be familiar with necromancy, it is the conjuring of the spirits of the dead for the purposes of magically revealing the future or influencing the current course of events. Really, really relevant. At the end of the movie, we learn that part of Queen Lee and the cult's rewards they're asking Paimon for is that he please bind all men to their will. They need Queen Lee's help after she has passed over here in order to continue the manipulation of the Graham family. So yeah, that word is scribbled across Charlie's wall there. These breadcrumbs that are dropped throughout the film work really well, in my opinion, because just like Annie, we're noticing this, we're seeing this word, these things, but if we happen to not be into necromancy, we don't immediately understand or grasp the relevance of these things. Super smart choice to continue dropping hints like that throughout. At 12 minutes in, Annie finds a note from her mother in a book. In the note, we see Ellen is asking Annie's forgiveness not for the things that she's done, but just that she couldn't tell Annie about them. This goes right in line with what Annie was saying in her eulogy. So Ellen also writes, "Try not to despair your losses. You will see in the end they were all worth it." Your losses, not Ellen's losses, Annie's losses. But then she has the audacity to say, "Our sacrifice will pale next to the rewards." Bitch, excuse me, what? I don't remember Annie signing up to sacrifice anything. There's a lot of awful stuff there that Annie is needing to accept or deal with from her mother. But of course, conscious Annie is a lot different than subconscious Annie. This is going to continue throughout. Subconscious Annie, or sleepwalking Annie, is definitely aware that her mother was not just mentally ill Ellen. She was Queen Lee, and behind the scenes she was into some pretty scary shit. Subconsciously, Annie's aware of the witchcraft, supernatural things that Mommy was into, but conscious Annie doesn't want to think about all that. So she's going to tuck that note back in the box and shove it up into the corner and forget about it. We will see in a moment here that Annie is still obviously attempting to deal with many of the traumas of her past, using her miniatures as a device for working through her traumas. We'll see this diorama of Annie holding baby Charlie and Ellen/Queen Lee standing next to the bed with her breast exposed. When Annie was saying that Ellen took Charlie and insisted on feeding her herself as a baby, this is definitely not what we were picturing. But back to Annie, just after she switches off the light here, we have another of these moments where the music will just stop, the score drops. As you see Ellen standing there in the shadows, it's such a fun, awesome scare. It's a creepy moment visually, and the dropping of the score rather than a musical cue to make us jump, very effective. The next day in school, Charlie isn't interested in doing her classwork. She's busy building one of her toys, making a body out of random things that she's found, so she could later attach a head to it. We see quite a few of these in her bedroom at home. The idea of decapitation and of providing a body for a head to be attached to will come up again throughout the movie. I get the sense that decapitation, how it's being used here, to symbolize something pretty important, in that it seems as if the removal of the head will bring the consciousness along with it, detaching the spirit or consciousness from the body, releasing it, allowing it to muck about or enter another body. In a moment, we'll see here a bird flies right into that window, breaking its own neck, which startles everyone in the classroom except Charlie. More things happening with Charlie that make you go, Charlie was startled by her teacher asking her to put this toy away, but she's not startled by a kamikaze bird. Birds flying into houses and killing themselves is something that is often associated with the idea that there is a malevolent spirit or demon inside the house. But on my first viewing, I really didn't quite make that connection when this happens. I love it when in hindsight, you can go back and all the things you see that are being foreshadowed just really line up to what was actually happening. It's like going on a treasure hunt. It makes a rewatch really fun. So Charlie sees these scissors, which she will use in a few minutes to cut the head off that dead bird. What a coincidence for Charlie. She's working on this little body here in class, and along comes a head she can attach to it. It's an odd, morbid hobby for a teenage girl, but it's understandable if the teenage girl is actually a king of hell who is wishing for a better body. Over in Peter's classroom, they're having a conversation which is clearly meant to make the viewer really think about what's actually happening in this movie to this family, and particularly the importance of Peter's role in the overall picture. They're saying that arrogance will cause the hero to refuse to look at all the signs that are being handed to him, but then the teacher reminds them all that the story is unconditional, meaning the characters cannot control the outcome no matter what they do. On first viewing, given the title of the movie, I'm thinking, okay, this is either going to be about some sort of inherited curse or some sort of inherited mental illness. And I really enjoy the fact that, in my opinion, Ari Aster really pulls off that illusion, because you don't figure out which of those two things is the case until he wants you to. At 19 minutes in, Annie is attending a grief recovery group, and I absolutely love this scene and the way that it's shot. We have this wide view of the whole group, and as Annie begins this really revealing monologue, all done in what is obviously one take, the camera slowly moves in on her. She is slowly starting to reveal her family's bonkers history, and it continues to escalate and worsen with every sentence that comes out of her mouth. The camera just keeps creeping up into her space. The information that we're getting about her family history just makes so much sense in hindsight. Her mother supposedly had dissociative identity disorder. Well, maybe she was living a double life. Annie's father had psychotic depression and starved himself to death when Annie was a baby. Okay, so maybe he wasn't psychotic, but yeah, it's possible that being married to a satanic witch who wished that she could marry herself to King Paimon instead of you could have been pretty depressing for Annie's father. Perhaps he did starve himself, or maybe Ellen killed him after Annie was born. He gave her children and she didn't need him anymore. Then we have Annie's brother, supposedly schizophrenic, who killed himself at the age of 16, roughly the same age as Peter, after Mommy Dearest tried to put people inside him. So yeah, this movie is using the supposed diagnosis of mental illness as a red herring, but I don't think Ari Aster is in any way trying to say mental illness isn't real. The idea of questioning, am I going insane or is something supernatural happening? It works very well in horror movies. This movie just takes that idea, does a lot of really fresh, original things with it, and runs with it to the finish line. After that scene, Peter is in his room, and he's taken a little bong hit there. So yeah, Annie's family history, what we've seen of Annie and Steve as parents, not too hard to believe that this kid's got some stuff he'd rather escape from than work through. So yeah, he's doing a little self-medicating there. And we see Charlie from her perfect vantage point in the treehouse, watching him through his bedroom window, much like the cult members seem to be watching or stalking Charlie and this family. It's not hard to imagine that Charlie, Paimon, has had a lifelong habit of spying or watching her big brother just a little too closely. Remember that Charlie is Paimon, and Peter is Paimon's desired host. It's likely that Peter has struggled for years with Charlie being a little stalkerish toward him, which would explain why they don't seem to have a super close relationship as siblings. And later on, when Annie wants Peter to bring Charlie along with him to the party, it's maybe more than just, I don't want my sister tagging along. Charlie makes Peter very uncomfortable. At about 24 minutes in, we see Charlie making that odd tongue pop sound that she seems so fond of making. It's sort of like a vocal tick here that Paimon has. And she's finishing up her little bird head toy thing. She's snacking on some M&Ms there. Stop that, you have a peanut allergy. And then we have the introduction of the light that we see several times throughout the movie. It's like a ring or an orb of light moving around, drawing its human target's attention in a certain direction or towards something. So I really like this choice to use that visual. It's a cool idea to be able to see Paimon or his influence outside the human body. And we'll see it used later on in the movie as well to indicate Paimon's movements. It's a really smart idea. A lot of people who believe in the paranormal or believe in spirits, I've watched a lot of investigators, and they usually see these orbs in photos or on video as the energetic form that spirits take when they're outside the body. If you're going to use some CGI in a horror movie, I do like it being used in such a creative way here. At about 30 minutes in, we're at the party with Peter and Charlie. And on one hand, Charlie appears to be an introverted, shy, awkward girl. She's a little too young to be at this party. So thanks, Mom, for making her go. Thanks, Peter, for lying about where you were going. And thanks, Dad, for being totally uninvolved. Or maybe what we're seeing is a king of hell who is trapped in physical form, living life as a child/young teenage girl. Not too happy about it. He has lost his queen. He's feeling sick and tired of waiting, dammit. Somebody give him some nuts. That will do it. Let's get this show on the road. That's where I'm imagining Paimon is at mentally right now. Peter is just being a teenager, telling Charlie, hey, grab some cake. Why don't you go have a seat? He's not thinking about our allergies, and neither is Charlie, and neither are her parents. So yeah, we're going to have some of this cake here. And the look on Charlie's face as she's swallowing that death cake and it's registering to her what's about to happen. Wow. Okay, so as we get into this portion of the movie here, I am a mother to a kid of a severe nut allergy. So seeing this scenario play out for Charlie really hits home for me. It is terrifying. It is a real danger in your child's life. It's your worst nightmare coming true as a parent. It's just a special kind of hell that you go through when you're dealing with this type of severe food allergy. Forgetting to check or ask what's in something you eat could kill you. It ain't funny. It's not being over-dramatized here. It's very scary. I've never seen it used in a movie quite like this, and it's an incredible idea. It works so well, but damn you, Ari Aster, for knowing somehow exactly what will get under my skin here. So yeah, what's happening with Charlie here? Oh man, baby girl, thinking that a drink of water is going to help with that feeling that's starting to happen in your mouth and throat. Hearing the wheezing starting, knowing what's happening to her airway here, I just really don't like this. Of course, Charlie's basic survival instincts do exist. She has an id, and it's gonna kick in. So yeah, she goes to Peter for help, and he drops what he's doing. They're off in the car here. He doesn't have an EpiPen, but he is gonna try to get her to a hospital. The way that the tension escalates in this scene is fantastic. It feels like the music gets louder and faster as the car is speeding up. Peter's in a total panic, and Oh my God, poor little Charlie here, in the back seat, just suffering to breathe. And it's so hard to watch. It's so hard to see this happening. You sweet summer child, you thinking that sticking your head out that window to get some fresh air might help open up your airway. And oh shit, now we get a close-up of her face, the swelling, the eyes going wonky, and then that music and sound just stops and whack, the utility pole. I do recall when I was first watching this movie, when this moment happened, I was so shook that I had to pause the movie. My daughter, who is now fully grown, but yes, still very allergic to nuts, was also watching the movie with me. And I looked over at her, she looked at me. We were in the exact same state here. Feeling like, okay, I have to take a break here. I have to take a fiver. I need to compose myself because this caught me so off guard. It made me so upset and anxious that I had to stop taking this movie in for a minute and really get myself together. I've watched a lot of really weird, disturbing shit. I love horror movies. Nothing has ever made me feel like this scene did, and I've never had to take a break. But back to this utility pole here and the conveniently placed dead deer in the road. So this was plan B. We saw them drive past this utility pole earlier on their way to the party, and yeah, the sigil of Paimon was carved on it. Just in case Charlie's survival instincts kicked in, and just in case Peter put his bong down long enough to try to stop her from dying of anaphylactic shock, we've got the pole and then the deer in place here. And Peter, oh man, Alex Wolff is just absolutely incredible here. His face, the way he just eases his foot off that brake and starts the car moving again. He's a kid. He's had a pretty messed up family his entire life. He has no idea how to deal with what just happened. Just like Mom, he has really terrible coping skills. So yeah, he cruises on home. And about 37 minutes in here, we have this wonderful close-up shot of Peter lying in bed, not even blinking, and night just transitions into day, and still with this shot of his eyes, you can hear Annie and Steve in the background. They're talking. Annie's out the door. She's getting into the car, and oh my God, she's gonna find her daughter's dead body, Son's head. You see, and just this look on his face where everything that's happening is registering. And then all you hear is Annie starts screaming. I really dig the choice here to continue the sounds of Annie's screams over these next few shots. It's just a gut punch to the feels type of moment. And we see this awful but amazing shot of Charlie's decapitated head just laying there in the street covered in ants. You cut to Annie rocking on the floor. Just her grief and pain is heartbreaking here. And Steve is trying to comfort her, but what can he do? It's all just very powerful and painful. Her wailing and sobbing continuing into Charlie's funeral. You know, as a mother, this is the sound I imagine would be coming out of my body for days if something like this happened to my child. Just incredible things that Toni Collette is doing here with her performance. In my mind, there's no doubt this is Oscar-worthy stuff. You see Peter trying to come to terms with what happened. He's in class at his desk. He glances up and there's the rearview mirror with Charlie's body in the back seat. A great way to visualize that this poor kid is still stuck in that car with Charlie's body. Then he's having a panic attack. He's wondering if he's having some sort of reaction to some bad weed here. This kid just wants to take away Charlie's pain and trying to deal with his guilt. And then he rides his bike home, and he's standing outside his own house trying to work up the courage to even go inside. This whole sequence, Charlie's death and these few days following it, it's just so raw and traumatic and sad. It stays with you when the movie's over. At about 48 minutes, you've got the first of several really smart uses of that tongue pop vocal tick Charlie has, as a way to just do a really fun, effective jump scare here. So Peter hears that noise, and of course Charlie's dead. It startles the hell out of him and us, but no, he's not seeing anything just yet. That comes later. Just after that, you've got this shot of their mail, which has already been delivered, and someone is slipping in a pamphlet for the Graham family here, inviting them to an open seance, messages from the other side. They're going to ignore that, though, because they're busy dealing with everything. So that's attempt number one, to get them the information they need so they can perform the spell. Next, we'll see Annie in her workshop. She's working on her project here. If you watch really closely, she does not bump that table. She does not bump that bottle, but the paint magically falls over all on its own. Attempt number two by the cult to really kick things into gear here. So the paint spills onto Joan's phone number. Annie met Joan prior to this, but was in such a traumatized state she never called her. They need to make sure that she reaches out to Joan, so the paint spills. At 51 minutes now, Annie is at Joan's apartment for the first time, and as I mentioned earlier, conscious Annie doesn't really want to accept or deal with the things that subconscious Annie suspects. So yes, she's going to brush off this super weird coincidence with the doormat. As the scene progresses, we have a couple more things that seem to be telling us we should be suspicious of Joan. In her first scene earlier, when Annie first met Joan, who is played so well here by Ann Dowd, you really got the sense that Joan is a bit pushy, but she comes across as very, very sincere. So yeah, we've got the doormat there. Joan's reaction to the news that Charlie's head was not in the car seems a little off. She has a very strange reaction to that bit of information. And then there's something in the tea here that Annie's drinking. And just when you're picking up these things and thinking something's up with this woman, Joan, we have another impressive choice by Ari Aster, story-wise, to go ahead and have Annie drop a bombshell on us, where she explains not only does she sleepwalk, but she did once douse her children and herself in paint thinner and nearly kill all three of them. The timing of hearing about this incident is really, really smart. Instantly, I'm so focused on that information as a first-time viewer, and really back to going, wait a minute, something's very wrong with Annie. She is either possessed or very mentally ill. I just plumb forgot about my suspicions of Joan the first time I saw this movie, so it's just continuing to keep us on our toes as far as figuring out what's really going on. At 56 minutes or so during this dinner scene with the Graham family, Annie's starting to let Peter have it, not just about blaming him for Charlie's death, but she's going into a lot of deeper things there, clearly doing a lot of venting, her lifetime of anger and frustration about everything that has happened to her family. One thing she says in particular really strikes me here. She says, "Nobody ever admits anything they've done." Well, hello there, subconscious Annie, venting your anger at your mother for her hidden shenanigans behind closed doors. She's so upset about people taking accountability. But then, of course, Peter says, well, what about the fact that you forced Charlie to go to that party? Yeah. Annie doesn't accept or respond to that at all, does she? She's so pissed off about accountability, but she isn't taking any herself. These people, all three of them, they're just starting to look like hamsters on wheels here. All this trauma and emotion and stuff that they're trying to work through, it's not going to get them anywhere anyway. Even if they're doing a really bad job of working through it, they have no control over the eventual outcome of things. Nothing they do is going to change that. It's getting kind of brutal to watch. These people, it seems like they're being tortured, and we're just standing on the sidelines watching it all happen, aren't we? At about 1 hour, 1 minute, we're seeing Joan in the parking lot of the craft store where Annie is shopping. The pamphlet didn't work, so Joan is once again at work here, trying to get the candle and the spell into the Graham house. The back and forth and physicality between Annie and Joan during this conversation in the parking lot is so well done. Annie is pulling or turning away, and Joan is grabbing her and insisting she stay right there with her and listen. She has to come over right now. It's a great scene. And Joan met a medium, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we know that her story is a bunch of BS. It's designed to get over the hurdle of Annie's reluctance here. And it does work because Annie goes to Joan's apartment again. And I really have a fun time with this scene here, this classic seance that's happening, practical effects, making cool things happen with the chalkboard and all of that. But what really sticks out during this scene is Annie's reaction to what is happening seems very disproportionate. It seems like there's something very sweet happening where Joan is talking to her small grandson here. Annie is freaking out. It's making her so upset and uncomfortable. Could it be because her subconscious has a very visceral and violent reaction to these things? She has definitely had experiences in her past where something very dark was happening, and it made her very uncomfortable. So as Annie's really, really trying to get the hell up out of here, Joan's going to make sure she remembers, you got to have this candle, you got to read this spell, don't worry about what language it's in. It's to make things start. And make sure that Peter's in the house when you do it. Okay, so Annie's out of here, trying to get as far away as she can from Joan and from that pesky subconscious of hers that really doesn't want to deal with what's going on here. And at about 1 hour, 9 minutes, we've got this sleepwalking sequence, this dream within a dream. Wow. I've never seen the false wake up idea work so well before in a movie. You really fall for it that first time that you're seeing this movie. You believe that she sleepwalked her way in there and Peter woke her up and now she's standing at the foot of his bed. It did not register for me that she was still dreaming until it was supposed to, and I love it when I just fall for something like that, hook, line, and sinker. As she thinks that she's woken up, Annie is starting to say all kinds of things that you maybe could be thinking, feeling, but you would never actually say out loud to your child. So this dream within a dream is a great way to let us into Annie's psyche, to give us more of her history and understand better what she has been through. Her mother forced her into motherhood. Just all this information that comes out here is stuff that we wouldn't find out otherwise. So the dream within a dream is a great way to give us this information. When she actually does wake up, she's so shook by the dream that she just had. She goes ahead and goes downstairs, and in a attempt to conjure Charlie's spirit, she's going to light that candle and read that spell. Paimon and the cult have been waiting for this to happen. Peter is in the house, as Joan instructed, so yep, it's going to work. Charlie/Paimon has now been fully invited, not just into the house, but into the Grahams' heads and into their space. So the process of breaking these people down can really begin here. Fate is bearing down on them like a freight train from here on out, and there's nothing they can do to stop it or delay it. At 1 hour, 20 minutes, you see the words Liftoch Pandemonium on the wall. That first word is Hebrew, meaning open up. Pandemonium, likely referring to the place where Lucifer and the fallen reside. And I really dig this transition we have of Peter sitting on his bed, looking scared, despondent, helpless. It transitions right into his classroom where he's stuck in that same state. At this point, Paimon has now fully been given the green light to go ahead and start messing with this kid to wear him down. He sees that light that we know is Paimon. It directs his attention to that bookcase next to him, and when he looks at his reflection, it's smiling back at him. It's a fun effect. It's a great idea that your own face could be sitting there looking back at you with the wrong expression on it, and then there's that tongue pop again. Immediately after he jumps up and leaves, Steve calls Annie at home to tell her that something's going on with Peter at school, and in their argument there, she says, I am not sleepwalking anymore. Do you understand? Finally, conscious Annie is going to let everything that she knows subconsciously come up to the surface so she can deal with it because it might be useful here. She's awake now, but of course it's going to backfire and it's too late anyway. Her behavior last night and from here on out is only going to add fuel to the fire when it comes to Steve's belief that she is in a psychotic episode. And it doesn't matter what information she finally confronts or faces here because nothing's going to change the outcome. But I do like that she's acknowledging that she is now awake. And she's going to go ahead and destroy all these miniatures that are related to her work project. Just like Peter doesn't need to be worrying about those SATs coming up, Annie's career is also a pointless endeavor. Her fate is set, and all of this is just a waste of her time. So she goes ahead and destroys all of it, but she does leave the Graham House miniature intact. At 1 hour 27 minutes now, this moment where Peter is again awakened by that tongue pop, but this time he does see Charlie in the shadows. She starts to lower her head and then it falls off, rolls across the floor, turning into a ball. It's freaky, it works, it scares me. Then we have the family's dog, which we did see earlier in the film, but who has been mysteriously absent since Charlie died. He's at the door of Peter's room here, barking like mad as this scene unfolds. Steve, who took a couple of big old sleeping pills and is on that couch downstairs, isn't hearing any of this though. You know, it says a lot about the state of this marriage and how well Steve and Annie work together as partners and parents, doesn't it? Annie's finally awake, and Steve has taken 2 sleeping pills so he can go to sleep. Recalling the end of the movie, where we learn that one of the riches Paimon will bring to his conjurers is good familiars. If you're not already aware, a familiar would be a supernatural or enlightened spirit, a helpful entity that inhabits the body of an animal or pet and is drawn to and bonds with a magical person. So this dog is clearly Paimon's familiar, which explains why he hasn't been around too much since Charlie died, but now that Charlie's back, the dog is back. And we're going to see Annie grabbing Charlie's sketchbook, which is now full of drawings of Peter's face with the eyes X'd out. And in an attempt to get rid of or stop what is happening, Annie tries to burn it. Her arm catches on fire as the book starts burning, sending her the clear message that any attempts by her to stop what is happening will not work and will result in her own destruction. Willing to go out on a limb here and guess that sketchbook was a gift to Charlie from good old Grandma Ellen, and it is in fact enchanted or cursed, depending on how you look at it. It's going to protect itself here. Annie clearly needs more information about what is going on if she wants to come up with a way to stop it. So she goes to Joan's apartment again, but Joan doesn't answer the door. We do see there is a sigil of Paimon, an altar inside Joan's apartment, but Joan isn't there. She's out going about the business of trying to cast Peter's soul out of his body. But Annie's at her door and she's triggered once again by this doormat. She decides it's time to go ahead, now that she's awake, and take another look through her mother's things. We and Annie are going to learn plenty of information from what's inside these boxes. It's going to shed light on what's actually happening, but unfortunately, it's too little too late. She's going to dig through these boxes. We'll see Annie's brother, the original intended host for Paimon, was in fact named Charles, meaning Charlie was named after him. We'll see that Ellen had a book of spells, which the one that Annie read came out of that book there. And then there's a book that's going to give you tons of info on Paimon, that he loves himself a vulnerable host, and he'll jump into one if it's convenient, but he isn't truly locked in at that point. He's just taken that body out for a joyride. The suspicions of Paimon wanting a male host are confirmed here, and yes, Joan did know Ellen for many years, and yes, they are in a cult. Ellen even appears to have married herself to King Paimon, thus earning the name Queen Lee. At 1 hour 37 minutes, Annie is busy finding her mother's dead, purple, bloated, decapitated corpse up in the attic. Yes, Steve, what is that awful smell you've been wondering about? And at the same time, poor Peter is sitting in class, hearing the flies that Annie is seeing. This is where Paimon really starts laying it on thick with Peter. He's going to jump into Peter's body, force him into a pose that is eerily reminiscent of Charlie just before she died. Then he slams his head down on that desk, forcing Peter to break his own nose. So side note here, the trivia in the X-ray feature, if you own a movie digitally on Amazon Prime, can be kind of fun and interesting. In there, I read that in this scene, Alex Wolff, who's playing Peter, insisted on really slamming his face into that desk there. Production patted the hell out of it, but his aim was a bit off when he did it. And when he hit that desk, he actually dislocated his own jaw. This kid deserves an award for this performance anyway, but that really sells me on his dedication. At 1 hour 44 minutes, Steve has confirmed that yes, there really is a body in the attic. Annie isn't seeing things. And of course, he's going to suspect Annie put it there herself. He's firmly convinced, and can we blame him, that his wife is having a psychotic break here. And Annie is just begging and pleading with him to listen to her and believe her. She feels their son's life is at stake, and it's just heartbreaking. She's grabbing Steve and telling him that he's the love of her life, saying goodbye, preparing to sacrifice herself here. But when Steve won't burn the book for her, she tosses it in the fireplace again herself, and Steve is burned alive. Because you see, Annie will be very useful over these next few hours to Paimon, but Steve, he needs to get out of the way now. So of course he's the one that's going to get burned, not Annie. And Paimon jumps right into Annie, who is very vulnerable while she's watching her husband die, so that he can use Annie to get on with terrorizing Peter. And then these next few things that happen the next few minutes where Annie is straight up possessed are so scary and so fun, in my opinion. She's up in the corner in the ceiling in Peter's room, and then she just scurries silently across the wall. Then she's downstairs up on the wooden rafters there in the living room. I love that stuff. And Peter's attempting to take in the sight of his father's dead body. And then we get Mr. Blonde Smiley Guy from Grandma's funeral standing there in the doorway, butt naked. He's just hanging out. Yes, the cult has now descended upon the house. They've moved right on into where the action is happening. No need to lurk outside anymore. They've got a ritual to perform, y'all. And yes, they're naked. If you do just a smidgen of research into satanic witchcraft, you'll find being naked is most definitely a thing. Clothing is thought to prohibit the flow of magical energy from the body. So yeah, if you think all the way back to Rosemary's Baby, satanic witches, they love to be naked. And I love how freaky that moment is where Annie just lunges at Peter from the corner there, and then he's up in the attic and she's on the ceiling slamming her head against that door, and he's just screaming, "Mommy, please stop." Just when Peter is at this breaking point emotionally, he hears this terrible, terrible sound. And I watch movies with the captions on, and the way that they describe sounds sometimes can be really fun. With this, they've got in parentheses, tearing and squelching sounds. What a great way to describe what he's hearing. It's a horrible, horrible moment. And he looks up and you get, another awful to look at, but what I want in a horror movie thing here. Annie hanging up there in the ceiling of the attic, slowly decapitating herself. We got a couple more naked cult people smiling and waving at Peter, and yep, that's it. He's done. He hit his limit and he yeets himself out that window. Honestly, I would too. I love that as he's lying there in the bushes, you can hear the sawing noise of Annie's being decapitated, just speeding up and then stopping. it's done. So Paimon is going to go ahead and move on down into Peter's body now that Peter is completely broken down. This shot you have next of Annie's headless body quietly floating up into the treehouse, it is just eerie. And then as Charlie / Paimon wakes up in Peter's body, he makes his way up into the treehouse. And I have to rave one last time about Colin Stetson's score. There are stirring strings and chimes. It sounds ethereal, magical, triumphant. It's a freaking overture that we're hearing here. To have that music playing as such a disturbing sight is being revealed. The sight of Charlie's decomposing, decapitated, crown-adorned head on top of this toy-like body they built for it so they could put together an altar. This is just hideous to look at, and the juxtaposition with what's happening in the music is fantastic. I can't get over how many great creative choices were made in this movie. You've got these horrifying shots here of Annie and Ellen's decapitated bodies worshipping at the altar there. And as we're focused on Peter's face again here, you've got Joan's voice coming in. This next sequence here, I would love to really stop and think about how this was accomplished. So if you are Alex Wolff playing the character of Peter, and I'm Ari Aster who is attempting to direct you, let's just stop and think about how this moment must have been set up. So Alex, we're going to have this tight close-up shot of just your face, mostly your eyes. You have no dialogue at all. We don't even really want you to move. Remember here, you're not Peter anymore, you're Charlie. And Charlie's confused because she's been dead for a while. Also, Charlie's confused because she doesn't know where she is, she doesn't know who these people are, no idea what's going on. So Joan's going to start talking, she's going to explain to you, you're not Peter anymore, you're not Charlie either. You're finding out that you are actually Paimon, a king of hell. And after a botched conjuring, and then 13 years trapped in an unfit host, we finally fixed it and got you the body that you needed. So just go ahead and receive and react to all of that information, but only react with your eyes, okay, Alex? Action. Wow. So yeah, he pulls it off. Just this incredible light bulb moment that is happening as Joan is explaining to Charlie who Charlie really is. It works so well. It's absolutely incredible. And then we end with this shot of the treehouse and everything that's happening in it here, appearing as if it is a miniature. Are we the creepy people peering in at all of this? Did we just accidentally join a cult? I'm having so many feelings and I'm very confused right now. That's how I felt when the movie ended the first time I saw it. I will admit that I absolutely loved it, but I was also a bit torn. Part of me did not like how this movie made me feel. I got so much more than just a scary movie, and I was not prepared for that. I wanted to tuck away all these extra things I was feeling in a box and bury them off in the corner. But luckily, I have healthy coping skills, and I decided to work through the trauma that I was experiencing after watching this movie, so it wouldn't come back to bite me in the ass later on. It does also help that my mother is a lovely gal who has never been a cult leader or attempted to summon a demon. So this has been my love letter to the film Hereditary. I hope you enjoyed hearing my take, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the movie as well, so please stay tuned for info on how to contact us. This is Nikki Flixx signing off for now. I just realized it's time to go feed my familiar. Thanks for listening.
Hey listeners, Movie Miss here. Listen, I know you have a lot of options when it comes to podcasts, so thank you for listening to the show. I know everybody says this, but for a fledgling little show like ours that's just hanging on, we just finished season 4, we're rolling into season 5, it would really help us if you could subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Good Pods. We're also on Pandora, Audible, Amazon Music. It would really help us grow the show and reach more people if you could subscribe and then rate and review, which is really the key part of it. Make sure to be part of our bad movie conversation by following us on social media. Interact with me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Movie Miss, which is movie_miss. The show is on Instagram at Let's Talk Turkeys. Also on Blue Sky at Let's Talk Turkeys and Facebook. We're on X. I'm honestly not sure how much longer I'm going to have the show on there, but currently the handle is at Gobble Podcast. Get it? Gobble, 'cause like a turkey. You can also chat with like-minded bad movie lovers in our Facebook discussion group. And like I mentioned, we're rolling into season 5. It is 2025. The show, it's been a wild ride, still going strong. So if you have a movie that you would like to hear covered on the show, let me know by emailing direct at letstalkturkeys, all one word, at yahoo.com. Also, hit me up on socials if you want to be a guest on the show. Always looking for guests. I can assign you a movie, something we think is fun, or you can bring a movie that you think is a bad movie if it has a low Rotten Tomatoes score, or you just really don't like the movie but you like to talk about it. That's half the fun, I think. Again, this goes without saying, but I'm going to say it. Without you, the show wouldn't still be kicking around. So thank you so much for hanging in there with us.
I'll be back.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Why don't you get the fuck out of here?
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.